according to this computer. All right, we are recording. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce Norm Gagnon, who is a brown belt in Gracie style jiu-jitsu and has really been actually, well, you all know his wife, Alicia, who is our new admin, and she's going to be doing some demonstrations with Norm tonight. But we wanted to do something about self-defense because we are actually going to, I want to just introduce Norm and give you guys an idea of what he's doing, because once we get back in the gym, we will actually be doing a full-on self-defense course on a Saturday, mid-morning, afternoon, whatever works with everyone's schedule. But before I go any butcher anything else, Norm, take it away. Thank you very much for joining us here. Tell us what you got.
Hey guys, first off, Tim, thanks a lot. Really appreciate the opportunity to give something back to the community that we live in. That's a big part of jiu-jitsu, right? Is service and service to your fellow man and your community. So really excited to explain to you guys. I'm sure the first question, like me, was what is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, right? Like, what is this stuff they're talking about? Like, it sounds Brazilian, it's Japanese, it's Jiu-Jitsu, whatever. Well, it's all of that, right? And then we took it, and like everything else, we kind of Americanized it a little bit. So I'll give you a brief history in 1 second. I have some show and tell items. Okay. So brief history right here is, I don't know how well you can see this, but there's 4 guys on this piece of paper. All right. And so it kind of starts right here with this guy. This guy is Jigoro Kano, who is the founder of what we now know as modern day judo. Okay. That started all in Japan. And judo is ultimately where the roots of jiu-jitsu comes from. Hence why we kept the fancy gi, right? Because it's a cool uniform and you can grab people and throw them with it. This guy, all right, is where our lineage started from. This guy is Matsuyo Maeda. Matsuyo Maeda was one of Jigoro Kano's students, decided he didn't want to stay in Japan, wanted to travel the world and spread the knowledge, so he went to Brazil, ultimately, where he met these 2 guys down here, and more specifically, their family. This is the Gracie family, all right, who were down in Brazil, and you guys might be familiar with UFC, and UFC was actually started by the Gracie family in part. And these guys were the 2 sons of the father who ultimately met Maeda and gave him a home in Brazil. And he said, hey, you can live with us. All you got to do is teach my kids jiu-jitsu, Japanese style. So this is Carlos Gracie. And this guy right here is Helio Gracie. 2 brothers, very different looking. This one right here was quite healthy, kind of a larger, stronger man, Carlos. And Helio was somewhat of a smaller, more sickly person. Right. And so his father actually and Maeda didn't really let him train a whole lot. So he was had to watch for most part. All right. And where our lineage really split is this is where my lineage comes from, is this man, Helio. Okay. So one day, Carlos, being the punctual person he was late for a private lesson teaching another Brazilian the jiu-jitsu that he learned from Maeda. And Helio was there. The student took a lesson from Helio, liked it more than he did from Carlos, and then that's how the lineage was born. All right, Helio continued to train. They both have very large families. Helio's sons, right, which he has many of them, Helson, Hickson, Euler, all right. Ours, for our lineage, is Helson. Helson brought jiu-jitsu, all right, to my instructors, which are the head of our affiliation, Phil and Mick Miglerese out of Philadelphia, who then poured it down to 2 of my main instructors directly, who were Ken Cronenberg, who owns Tai Kai Mixed Martial Arts out in Liverpool, New York. So if you're out that way, please look them up. Fantastic school. I can't say enough good about them. And then John Hassett, who is the owner of Hassett's Jiu-Jitsu in Sewell, New Jersey, who I recently received my brown belt from. So that's my lineage. So, and that's how Jiu-Jitsu ultimately got to me and how I'm bringing it to you. So what is jiu-jitsu, right? How does it work? So jiu-jitsu preys off of the aggression of other people. And it's more of an opportunistic sport. And if you could think about it, is almost like a scavenger sport, right? So we need, right? We try to instigate some reactions, or we get the reactions from other people, right? Whether they want to give them or we want to kind of trick them into giving them to us, all right? And then we try to capitalize. So here's the thing. A big, scary person, okay, is very dangerous when they're standing up on their feet. They can run, they can tackle, they can jump. So one of the major principles of jiu-jitsu is to bring the fight to the ground, like a grappling art, right? If you think about like a quarterback, I'm Tom Brady, I can throw a football 100 yards standing up. Well, then you put me on one knee, and now I can only throw it 70 yards. And you make me sit down, and now I can only throw it 50 yards. Then you make me lay down, and I'm basically useless, okay? So that is the idea. The closer you bring the person to the ground, the less dangerous they are, because the less, impulsive and powerful energy they can create, okay? Once we get into the ground, it is a matter of controlling them with various different positions, okay? And think about it. You want to first get past somebody's on the ground, right? Just like one of your toddlers, or if you ever tried to play around with your dog or your cat, their legs come up, right? So you have to get past these dangerous legs first, right? They can kick you, they can grab you, they can push you away, right? So these guys are a problem. You have to get past those. Step one. Step two, right? Here, Alicia, my lovely assistant. All right. Let me change the angle of the camera a little bit for you guys. Okay, step two is once she gets past those dangerous legs, right? So one of the simplest ways is to just throw them out of the way. So she's going to grab both of my ankles, and she's going to throw my legs to one side. Now my legs are out of the way. But what does she have to do, right? I can bring them back up. No, she's going to hold them down. First at the knee, pin the knees down and the hips. So she brings her hips down, puts them on top of my hips, basically. Right? Now I can't move. Now this is a part of a problem. So now that she's got past the dangerous legs, next threat is these guys, right? Dangerous arms. So now she's going to start pinning the arms and getting behind me. She's going to push down on my arm and start bringing her chest down and pin my chest down with her chest. Now I got a big problem. I can't move my hips. Can't move my chest. I'm not very dangerous to her down here. Okay, I can barely do it. I can maybe poke her, give her a wet willy with my bottom arm, but that's about it. And then she starts isolating things. She might push my arm down my head and use her hand that's behind me to reach under my head and grab it. Like this. Now take your other arm away. Now look, I can't do anything with this top arm, and she can do all kinds of bad things to me with that top arm, with her arm. She can punch me. She can push on my face, right? This is a lot of control, and there's not a whole lot. Or what most people will do is go to their belly, because we're humans. Now, get on my back. Now she's on my back. This is even worse, and this is ultimately where we want to make people go to. And then what am I going to do? Because she's on my back. Oh, I'm going to try and get up. I'm going to try and get up. And when I'm trying to do that, look, what do I have to use to get up? My hands. Now she has arms around my neck, legs around my waist, right? If she just simply does like an arch of her back and kicks her legs straight, right? Go ahead, kick. I go back down because it's putting a lot of stress on my lower back with some very strong muscles from her, all right? And then also, look, as I'm pushing up, if I'm worried about pushing on the floor to get up, I'm not protecting my neck. And this is the first technique, okay? And this is the foundation of jiu-jitsu. Mr. Helio really prided himself that he said, you know what? You can have tough guys with tough arms, big, strong legs. They won't tap to an arm bar or a joint lock or this, that. He goes, nobody has strong veins. So if Alicia gets a nice little V around my neck and squeezes on both sides, I am going night-night. I can struggle around all I want. All she has to do is just ride it out. And oh, by the way, she's on top of me the whole time. Gravity is helping her. It's hurting me. I'm wasting all kinds of energy right now. She's not even tired. She's not even breathing hard. I'm breathing hard already. Okay? And then all she has to do is squeeze. All right? And that's that. So, basic principles of jiu-jitsu. Okay? Take the person, okay, get close to them. And the close to them part is what we're going to start talking about right now. Alicia, come here. All right?
So Norm, real quick.
Yes.
So basically what you're saying, no matter how tough or strong or tweaked out someone is,
Yes.
their veins in their neck are not any stronger than mine or Lukey's here playing that with his Legos.
No. Believe it or not, nobody, everybody's vein, it takes the same amount of pressure per square, pounds per square inch to choke a child as it does to choke you, Tim, a grown man. You know? So
that's good knowledge. That's good to know, especially if someone's attacking you.
Yeah, and if you want to test what this feels like to yourself, you just take the palms of your hands, push on one side of your neck, push on the other, and just push in just a little bit. And you'll see how little pressure it takes to really create, one, discomfort, and two, you'll start to feel a little wheezy. Like, we always have this rule in jiu-jitsu that when we're training it, and what makes jiu-jitsu really, really different from a lot of martial arts is, you notice when Alicia was choking me, I tapped on her arm. That makes this real, okay? She's really putting dangerous pressure to me, and I don't get hurt because I tap. So we actually train the techniques as if you were going to use them live on a person in the street. And that's what makes our martial art extremely effective from the learning perspective. You know, it's kind of hard if you're doing a striking art, right? And your opponent, wham, hits you super hard. Well, you can't tap because you already got hit. The damage is already done, okay? There are ways to do that, you know what I mean, where you can kind of have a gentleman's agreement, right? Happens all the time in boxing, sparring. But ultimately, doing that stuff over and over, you end up like Muhammad Ali, right? You end up punch drunk. So with jiu-jitsu, this, you know, you can have maybe some long-term effects if you let somebody come really close to choking you out all day, every day, right? No, too much of nothing is, or anything is not good for you. But it allows us to train our art exactly as it would be used in the street and safely, okay? And it's at your own pace. So you can tap whenever you want. Maybe once that arm's around your neck and you're not defending it, you tap right away and you never get squeezed on because you're smart enough to say, oh, it's too late, right? And that's really up to each person, how far they want to let it go.
I love it. So if someone like, okay, say 90% of our population at boot camp is female, which are often targeted as sexual assault and any kind of robbery, assault, anything like that. Not always, but that's the majority of the cases. Someone smaller, you're saying, as long if they can learn how to defend themselves and get someone much bigger than them in a choke, that person will go to sleep and they can get out of there.
Exactly. So we're going to do an example of that right now.
Gotcha.
So example is you're out somewhere, you're walking to your car, you get caught off guard. Okay. So I'm going to demonstrate with Alicia basically a survival position for you, right? So if you get tackled by somebody, generally when they tackle you from the front, right? So Alicia knows she's going to get tackled, so she's just going to defend by tucking her head down close to her chest so that the back of her head doesn't hit the ground when I tackle her. And so from here, she gets tackled down, okay? And now we land, right? Where am I? I tackle her to the ground. I'm inside her legs. This is bad for me being the attacker because now she can control me to an extent. So she's going to wrap those legs around and cross her feet and grab me, right? So she's grabbing me with her legs. And now the other thing is she wants to control this distance, right? Well, it doesn't make sense to use small things to try and move me around with. She's going to pull these legs like some of the drills that we do, right? All these squats and jump squats and burpees. She's going to basically do a reverse burpee and pull me in towards her and grab me so that I stay down right around the neck. She's going to go right around my head, right? Everybody see that? Okay. So now she's got control of my posture to an extent. You notice, what did I have to do again to sit up? I had to, right? What did I have to do, Tim?
Push.
I had to push.
Use a lot of energy.
Yeah, I had to push off the ground, right? And look, notice I can't really pick her up a lot yet, okay? But again, the plan is not to stay here forever, right? He doesn't want to just hang out there all day and let me bounce her around. So remember, if my hands are on the ground trying to pick myself and her up, which is much more difficult now that she's attached to me, they're not protecting my neck. So the choke that we're going to do real quick, we'll get a little closer and show you. Stand up. It's called, I call it the hug choke, right? It's the best way to explain it. Really? So essentially what Alicia's doing is she's wrapping this arm around my head. And you notice her elbow is right in my spinal line. Like when I try to pull away, she's not really holding me with her biceps. She's holding me with her ligaments and her bones, and her shoulder and her elbow, right? Because muscles will get weak. Bones and ligaments don't get tired. Okay? So I can't even pull away from her. She's very strong. Now, this is where the trickiness comes in. As I'm trying to get up, right, you notice my head's picking up. Everybody inherently does this, right? And it's built into us to the proper way to lift things is to look up. Right, Tim? Head up, chin up.
Yep.
Well, when I do that, see this little forearm right here of Alicia's? It's going to sneak under my neck. And now her elbow, her forearm, is right in my throat. And all she has to do is grab her shirt, clothing, and now my head is trapped. You can hear my voice changing. My head is trapped in this circle. And it takes very little pressure. Again, Alicia just kind of walks her fingers on this side, walks them right up towards her shoulder. All right?
Yeah.
And one, my trachea can get crushed very easily. Two, she's putting a tremendous amount of pressure on my neck again. All right? And realistically, it only takes, with proper pressure, between 3 to 7 seconds for somebody to go out like that.
So, Norm, quick question. Alicia's strong. But I've seen you both work out. I'm going to go out on a limb and say you're physically stronger than her.
Yes.
However, it did not look like she was really struggling or really wrenching that hard on your neck. She was just looked like slow, consistent pressure going in that direction, kind of putting them together.
That's exactly. It's about leverage. It's about position, right? These techniques are designed, Mr. Helio was not a big man. He was not an extremely strong man. The best thing that he had going for him probably, even up into his older age, was he had really strong grip. Grip will really help you. And don't get me wrong, strength when applied with technique is very helpful, right? That's why you see these jiu-jitsu world champions, they look like steroid freaks, right? Because at that level of competition, strength is the difference between winning and losing, right? So that's where it really matters. But we're not talking about super trained people here. We're talking about the average idiot who's just drunk or whatever and overstepping his bounds, right? That's who we're trying to protect ourselves against mostly from a self-defense standpoint, okay? So, again, this is Alicia, right? Me coming after her, and she's maybe worried about getting punched. So that's why this distance control, right? Because here it's very dangerous for her. I can hit her she can hit me very easily. This is the punching zone, striking zone. If we get this close to each other, now punches and things don't matter. You can't really. It'll be annoying and it'll hurt, but it's not gonna hurt you like to the point where you're incapacitated. This is a safe zone. Okay, and again, it's her use of her body position, right? By relying on those bones and ligaments to hold me in place, right? And then sneaking that little arm in there, right under my neck when I'm trying to push off of the ground. And all she got to do is shove that elbow up and squeeze. All right? And I'm going to eventually pass out.
That's it.
Okay? And the more I struggle, the worse these moves get. The tighter they get, you can tighten them up, cinch them. It's just like, imagine it like an anaconda at that point or a boa constrictor. They're just wrapping you up. Okay?
I think it might be a good thing to say too. Don't try this at home unless
No, This is no joke. Okay, so
Don't go and try. Hey, honey, come here. I got to show you something to your husband.
that's a learn.
Choke him out.
Right? I was at a conference for my work, and I demonstrated this to one of the women who was sitting at the table with us, and then her husband comes out of the room, comes out to meet us, and she immediately does this one of these chokes on him. Okay, and it happened to be the cross choke one, right, where you make an X around their neck, and she started to put him to sleep. So like I had to stop it right away. And it was one of those things where it was more on the 3-second side of things. Like she, just went from like 0 to 100 with her strength, not realizing it was like, it didn't take 100%, only took 20%.
Yeah.
Almost put him to sleep right there on the patio. So I've learned the disclaimer, this stuff is real. It does work, and it's going to work maybe faster than you expect it to.
Yeah. So be careful.
Yeah. Like I tell Tim sometimes, I'm like, you don't need to know all the offenses, but you need to know all the defenses, right? Because you never know what's going to be done to you in this sport. All right, so that's an example of a choke from the back and a choke from the front. All right, but we talked about distance control, right? Some simple concepts, and one of the simplest ones I think is don't ever, if somebody makes you feel uncomfortable, don't ever be standing with your hands down. Right? And especially if they start to get inside your little bubble here, right? Always have your hands up, because if her hands are up, at least she can cover her face real fast if she's about to get punched, okay? Or she can, all right, at least block my arms. I'm trying to do something. She's faster than I am, always going to be faster than I am for the most part, because her hands are already there, okay? So being that your hands are there, one of the things that happens to children a lot, right, before fights start and things like that, is they shove each other, right? They push each other. So if you train your child that when they're around somebody who seems confrontational, is making bad faces, clenching their fists, things like that, right? And first, you always try to talk yourself out of situations like that. Back up, keep your distance, try to talk the other person out of it. If your talking does not help and they just really want physical altercation, well, then you better prepare yourself for that, right? So we always say we want our children's hope to carry more than just a wish, right? So if I go to shove Alicia here, right, and I put my hands on her shoulders to shove her, all she really has to do is get my hands off from her, okay? So her arms will come out, right? And you notice how her arms are also inside of my arms. I can't bring my arms in now. Her arms are in the way. So again, from a standing position, she could close the distance, get that hug around my head, right? And start, maybe I try to lift her up this time. So that's when, remember, I'm trying to pick her up. I'm using both my arms, not protecting my neck. And she laces that in, right? And as I go to lift her, I realize I can't lift her very far because I can't get her head away from my head, right? And if I try to lift her, she can wrap her legs around my legs. No, just one leg. Yep, again, look, she's attached to my leg. Look, she's attached to my leg. I can't lift her off the ground, right? So, and by this time I'm struggling, remember, 3 to 5 seconds, and I start going to sleep, okay? So, again, that's another scenario where the other person is not realizing that what's happening to them, okay? So, those are variations. I like, personally myself, I prefer chokes that fully encircle the head. So like from behind when Alicia had me in this choke, full circle, right? When she locks her hands, it's a full circle around my head, okay? From the front, this is the same choke, just if I spun around, okay? These are very strong chokes, all right? And we always have to be aware, like I was saying, the first scenario, or when I tackled Alicia, if somebody's gonna tackle you, right? Don't tackle her down. If I pick her up, lock your hands around, get that nice little choke in, right? Somebody's gonna pick you up.
We lost you on the camera. Oh, there we
go. Right? Somebody's gonna pick you up. Just stand up. I go stand up, and she can still choke me. Right? So her legs are on the ground. Right? Because now look at this thing right here is threatening to me. So as I'm standing up, I'm not worried about holding her legs. I'm worried about getting this off my neck. She stands up. All right. So, right. I know a lot of people like to say things like jiu-jitsu from the guard this, you get slammed, this, that, and everything. That's why our preference, always get to somebody's back. Okay. Speaking of back, you guys want to see Alicia throw me? Can we get a hand raise somewhere? All right, Alicia's gonna throw me now. Okay. So this is one of our favorite things here. We got a little rumpus room down in our basement for the kids, and we got a giant throw pad because they love to jump off crazy things. So you can't stop them from jumping, so you just give them something safe to jump on. So Alicia is our unknowing shopper. Okay. I am said overzealous aggressor. Okay. She bought the shoes that I wanted. I'm coming after her. Right. I come up from behind her and I wrap my arm around her neck. This is dangerous. Alicia knows that. So she's not, first thing she's going to do with her hands is stop herself from getting choked. Pull down on the arm so it's away from her neck. Big mistake that the aggressor makes, right? Remember, we use people's aggression against them. I stuck my arm way too far over her shoulder. Okay? Now, all she has to do is basically give a little squat. Remember, guys, remember your squats? Squat down, get her hips underneath mine a little bit. And she's going to turn and look behind her. And I just got thrown from behind her down to the ground on the concrete. And you notice, what does she have still? What do you have, honey?
Your arm.
My arm, right? So she sticks this arm under her armpit and throws her hips in a little bit. Now she can break that arm if she feels like it. All right? Or put me in something nasty like a wrist lock or anything. By the way, I don't show wrist locks in these demonstrations because you will definitely hurt somebody with those. Okay? They're very, very effective, and everybody, I mean, some people can't handle even just a little twist. All right? But there's a situation where that comes more from judo, right? That's not, we can't take credit for that in jiu-jitsu. That's more of a judo move. But even judo, right, is you're only kind of helping people to fall where they already want to go. Because I jumped over Alicia's back with my arm, she's like, oh, I'm just going to keep you going. I'm just going to get out of the way. And she did. She just turned, got out of the way, and threw me right to my back. Very effective. Very low energy required to do that. Only thing she had to worry about is protecting her neck. Because as I showed you before, getting choked is very easy. Okay? So, what else do we have? Yeah. So what about this one? We got a little. So let's just say that some chick thinks you stole her earrings, her hoops. She's coming for them hoops back. All right. She reaches that arm up there like this to try and grab them hoops. Everybody know baseball bat grip or like a hoagie grip? They call it down in Jersey, right? Like you're trying to eat a sandwich, right?
You could say sub.
Yeah, sub. There you go. Submarine grip, right? Everybody knows that one. Okay, but it's like a baseball bat grip. Now, remember, where does Alicia want to go? Ideally, she wants to go behind me. So she's going to turn my arm out of the way and kind of go behind me a little bit. Now, as she pinches this elbow down, no, I have to kind of follow that a little bit. Back up, right? So you notice as Alicia squats, right, I have to follow that. Otherwise, my shoulder is going to have a bad day. This is very controlling. And to get me all the way to the ground, real quick. To get me all the way to the ground, right, all Alicia really has to do is sit herself. And I kind of have to follow that. Otherwise, switch toward the back. Switch that a little bit. Right? If I don't follow it, and I try to get up, lean back, she's going to break my arm. Okay? And it's all just from that grip control, right? She's just keeping that grip and putting all her weight onto it. Now, why did this work? I think this concept is really important in jiu-jitsu. Why did this work? Okay? Why does it work on a big person? I'm physically bigger than Alicia. My arm is not. Okay? Notice what happened here when she does this, right? I reach for her head. Watch what happens. Alicia comes over, Where's my body? All of this is over here. Only my arm is on that side. She just cut me into pieces. This being a very small, vulnerable piece now. So if she can easily injure, break this piece with her whole entire body weight, or with a couple parts of her body. Both her arms are stronger than my one arm. She has two arm control. I have none. Okay? And then again, she's behind me. I can't even touch her. I could smack her. That's about it in the leg. Right? I could poke her in the back. But that's about it. And then if she doesn't like that, she's just going to sit and make me kiss the ground all the way down. Right? Lean right back on it. Lean right back up. Just like that. Okay?
It looks like she's using leverage. Looks like she's got your arm like a lever.
Exactly, right? So a lot of these techniques are body mechanics. And this movement in particular we just showed, this is common in a lot of different martial arts, right? There's variations where you see the guys and they're like, bam, and they'll break the elbow and this other stuff, right? We want to control the person, okay? Because if I break this one arm and then he comes back after me because he's on PCP or something else where he just doesn't feel pain, I don't have any control over him. If I take him to the ground, remember, people are less dangerous down there than up here. So you get a guy who's on PCP, and I've seen videos of them wrecking 5-6 cops in a row. I've seen them getting shot and still going after people. Okay? This gets them under control in an efficient way. Okay? Any questions so far?
Not from me so far. I think.
No. Okay, good. Quick plug real quick. My buddy Len Sonia, the rash guard I'm wearing, has Dojo 1. It's a jiu-jitsu school in New Hartford. Technically New York Mills area. All right, so if anybody on here is watching, is in that area, kids, adults classes, private lessons, he's got all kinds of options for you. Please go check him out. He's been nothing but good to me since I moved back to the area, and I can't say enough good things about him. He's also a team balance black belt. So I've been doing this for a long time, and I'm really fortunate, and we are really fortunate to have him within our community area. So, all right. What else about jiu-jitsu? Okay, real quick, break. There's only 5 different belts for adults. I kind of have them back here on the sign, right? There's, grab my wheel, yeah. So, obviously, it starts at white belt, all right? Very interesting piece of information. So, white is in the center. Everybody starts at a white belt, okay? Average time in a white belt for an adult is between 1 to 2 years. I've seen 3. I've seen 4, okay? Then it goes blue belt. Now, blue belt is where you spend a lot of your time in jiu-jitsu. Because if you think about jiu-jitsu like a language, as you're a white belt, you kind of learn words, right? Or even just how to pronounce the words. As a blue belt, you kind of learn how to form sentences, right? And how to put those words together and maybe even learn more complicated words. Then there's purple. At a purple belt, you kind of learn how to speak sentences, okay? And this is where your jiu-jitsu, you start maybe teaching other people, giving back a little bit. The blue belt time in there is usually 2 to 4 years. Purple belt time, right, where you're learning to kind of speak the language. This is usually another, between 1.5, 3 years, sometimes 4, 5. And then brown belt is kind of where you learn to put it all together, right? You learn how to speak fluently, write paragraphs, essays, right? And so the next belt is black belt, okay? Very unique thing about jiu-jitsu. You will never see anybody under the age of 18 years old with a black belt. They just do not give them out. It is for adults, and it is for you when you are mature enough to receive it, okay? Very different thing about, jiu-jitsu versus a lot of other ones, or anyone that I can really think of, to be honest with you. And then from there, if you're a black belt for like 32 years, then you get a red and black belt, okay? which makes you somewhat of a master. It means you're dedicating your life to jiu-jitsu. And then if you're very fortunate, you get a red belt after about 70 some years, or 67 years, I think, of practicing jiu-jitsu. So basically when you're older and you've committed your whole life to it and there's nothing else, they say, congratulations, you're a master, or a grandmaster in this case, of which, there will only be a couple of 10th degrees, like Helio, Carlos, the Pioneers, and then most everybody else, like Helio's sons, and Helson, the head of our affiliation, he's got a ninth degree red belt. Okay.
What would you recommend? So let's say someone just wants to not necessarily dedicate their life to it, but learn enough so that they can defend themselves against the average Joe walking down the street that's potentially bigger than them, but they're not competing. They're not necessarily going against people that are trained. What's the standard as far as just really being able to defend yourself?
Yeah. So ideally, I think everybody should have a plan. It doesn't really matter how you get to that plan, but you need to have a plan, and it needs to be rehearsed and practiced. In jiu-jitsu, that's what the blue belt is for. We always say everybody should at least train it to the point where you get your blue belt and you understand your self-defense street combatives, okay? And you have a strategy, or maybe many strategies, all right, for dealing with different situations, because, you can get very injured very easily, okay? And the worst thing is to have somebody do something to you and then you don't know what to do back, all right? Because there's no tapping in the street. There's no referees in the street. There's no anything like that. So in reality, you have to have a plan. And so the first thing that you learn in jiu-jitsu is how to use your street self-defense techniques. And this is the way I think it should always be taught from the beginning, is with, the street self-defense aspect in mind all the time. How to deal with punches, how to deal with headbutts and kicks and these other things. All right. For the kids, the Gracies have developed the bully-proof program. If you go to gracieuniversity.com, which is an excellent resource, they have the Gracie Combatives, which is what we teach to our military. Okay. And then they have the Gracie Bully-Proof program, which is the program we developed for kids, which is school friendly. It's bully program friendly. What we do in that program is we teach verbal jiu-jitsu, which is the 4 T's, along with physical jiu-jitsu, because you have to teach kids how to handle these situations. You have to give them a plan for what to do when somebody's doing something to you that you don't like. Okay, this goes for adults too, right? And it's just a form of communication and feedback. Okay, so if Tim's doing something to me that I don't like, doesn't matter what it is. Maybe his brother doesn't care he does it, but I care. So I just tell him. My job is to tell him how I feel, right? That's everybody's job in life. Tell people how you feel, because it's the one thing they can't see for themselves, okay, most of the time. So, Tim, I don't like that. Please stop, right?
Stop making me do burpees in class.
Yeah. And then, of course, if Tim doesn't listen to us, we go to Alicia. We say, Alicia, Tim keeps doing this. I asked him to stop once already. Will you talk to him, please? Right? Somebody that you think is going to have influence over Tim, authority figure, whatever. Okay. Well, then, he doesn't, maybe he listens when she's around, but when she's not around, he's still doing his same old antics, right? So then this is when you use the third T, which is a verbal tackle. I say, Tim, I need you to stop that or else, right? This is the or else part where you teach your kids that they have to be ready for the or else part, which could potentially be physical altercation. Okay. This is why we learn the techniques and the physical side of jiu-jitsu. And so if that kid's ready and he's crazy and, maybe like 10, 20% of kids and people in the whole world are this way, he says, yeah, let's go, man. I'm ready. Well, fourth is the physical tackle. That's when we're going to take control of the person. And, with jiu-jitsu, we have the ability, right, to do these holds and these things, like when Alicia's doing this arm lock to me, right? Turn to your arm lock, right? She has a choice. She could break my arm right now if she wants to, or she could just embarrass me. And, say I was just messing around at a family picnic or something, and I did something to her she didn't like, and she does this to me, and she's like, Norm, you calm down, right? You gotta behave yourself. I'm like, oh, okay, right? So she scared me, right? And then the other case is I'm some drugged out knucklehead who comes after she walks out of Price Chopper some night and she breaks his arm, right? And then she ties his hands behind his back and waits for the cops to show up, you know? And, well, some people have to learn the hard way, but we try to avoid that. You know, we only use as much force as possible, and we can do that because we're trying to control the person first, not trying to hurt them, okay, unless we have to.
So the interesting thing is with the kids, and I can actually got started with this through the Bully Proof program, and my boys absolutely love it, and they can't get enough of it, to the point where now they're getting their homework done or their schoolwork done so that we can go out in the garage or in the living room and practice jujitsu. And that's something really cool. And they're both engaged. One of my kids is super competitive, big athlete, loves competition. The other one is very introverted, does not want to compete, does not want to do this on anyone, but he just loves the feeling of learning something and spending time together. And this is actually something we're doing at home via video. And Norm is actually coaching us over a live stream video to say, yeah, move your hips, you're looking good, this and that. And, you know, I'm not too worried about an awful lot of trouble with my kids here in the streets of Secoy. There's some of the bigger kids in their class, and everyone's pretty cool. But you never know. If they at least are empowered to know that they can defend themselves, and the rule is, and Norm, correct me if I'm wrong, this is only to be used if it's a situation, if someone is doing something they don't like that they can't physically walk away from. The person can say whatever it is they want to them, but if they're not getting their hands laid on them, they can turn around, walk away, and that's it. But if there's some jerk trying to put them in a headlock and they tell them stop, they try and find a person of influence, at least they know how to defend themselves against that.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's the general rule. Like, I would rather buy a guy a beer than get into a bar fight with him. You know what I mean?
Right.
Same for kids. You know, kids obviously can't buy beer for each other. But, you know, you can just say, hey, man, you know, let's go sit down and talk about this somewhere. You know, what's bothering you? You know, like, why are you being this way? So we try to teach the kids to kind of see things from the bully's perspective a little bit as well, and try to put themselves in their shoes. Why are you being a bully? Why are you doing this, right? It probably doesn't have anything to do with me, you know? So we're trying to get rid of the whole bullying behavior by, you know, encouraging people to sympathize with them a little bit, you know, and try to talk them down off the fence, you know, and, you know, maybe make a friend out of it even, and maybe convert them over into a better lifestyle, more healthy one, you know, avoiding the fight.
Right.
Is the best way to win.
Have you taught kids in the past?
Yeah, so I've spent like the last about 7 years of my life teaching jiu-jitsu specifically, also wrestling, and prior to that I used to coach wrestling at Onondaga Central School from like 2008 until I moved away.
Cool. So definitely have, because we were talking about if we can get out of, not if, but when we get out of quarantine, doing some sort of if it's the summertime, maybe a summer camp for kids, or at the gym, just to teach them some basics and things like that of self-defense. And I'm even doing it with this guy. There's games you play with kids.
Yeah, Luke can learn jiu-jitsu without even knowing he's learning it, right?
We just do it by playing games.
Yeah, exactly. He can just him and Tim playing on the ground, you know, roughhousing it kind of like, you know, but, you know, Tim's laying down and Luke's on his chest, and Tim's trying to kind of push him off side to side real gentle like, and Luke's just trying to stay there and stay relaxed and have fun and, you know, maintain his position and keep his control over Tim, who's way bigger than him, you know? So, yeah, so that's where jiu-jitsu starts. The Gracie family developed this teaching style because they've had to teach generation after generation. I think they're on their third or fourth generation now. I think fourth generation of teaching their lineage of their family. So they've developed these programs not just because they think they're good ideas, but because they actually work, and they've seen the joy that it can bring to a family, and especially, the specific bond between parent and child, of doing things like this together. So, and, for me, what's even funny is like my daughter, who's only a year old, she knows how to do a lot of these basic things. Like she knows how to roll over the proper way from her back to her belly. She knows how to stand up properly with base. Like they're primitive things that I guess we just forget along the way, some of this stuff, because we don't need it, So it's not being tested on a daily basis like it is for them.
Well, that is awesome. I'm looking forward to actually moving forward with this. And if people have questions, what is the best way for them to contact you?
You can catch me on Facebook, or if you're a member at the studio and my wife Alicia, you can contact her, or Tim through Fit Body Boot Camp. Lots of avenues that you can get a hold of us. I will be putting together a new Facebook page for kind of spreading the jiu-jitsu throughout the Rome community, and I will put that link out on the Fit Body Boot Camp Facebook page if they'll allow me, and you guys can check it out there and see what we're offering for some summer camps, and maybe just a couple of classes here and there on the weekends to get people kind of familiarized with everything, and give the kids something to do that's healthy for them.
That's awesome. Well, we absolutely will allow it. We're coming up to the top of the hour. Norm, I really appreciate it. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for sharing that information with us. And this, again, was not meant to, our disclaimer, to don't be aware, situationally aware of your surroundings. Don't say, oh, I saw a demonstration with Norm and Alicia, and now I'm ready to walk around the streets by myself at night with in unsafe neighborhoods. This is the best weapon we have to be smart. But this is, if something like this ever does come up and you use it, it saves your life, great. But again, don't try it on your spouse or your siblings or anybody else, especially the choke, until you're trained and you're actually training with someone else. But our hope is that we can get people in on like a weekend or something, training together and learning a little bit, and maybe who knows what'll go from there. But all right. Well, listen, anything else you want to oh, hey, there she is.
Hello.
How are you? Good.
Yeah. So, like we say, we do this for the fun of sport. It's actually an incredible workout. Tim learned that firsthand with his kids who are, significantly smaller than him. But when he does the drills, he ends up being the most tired guy in the room.
Oh, it's terrific.
And there's a lot of good success stories you guys can see. It's very similar body workout as to what we got going on at Fit Body Boot Camp. So, really good for either way. Can be pretty low impact. There's people who practice this well into their 70s. I actually just had a woman who got her black belt, and she's 73. Another good resource for you if you really like some reading, you want to go on Amazon, is this book, Jiu-Jitsu University, by Saulo Ribeiro. I'll hold up for a second in case anybody wants to take a picture. But order it on Amazon. It's like $25. It's got some great stuff on the inside, great illustrations, written by some very, very good technical jiu-jitsu people, both from the writing perspective and from the instructional perspective as well. Really good read if you're like into the literature. If you're more into the online stuff and the videos, jujitsuuniversity.com, which is with the Gracie family. And awesome content available there, both for adults and for children through the Bully Proof program. And then check out your local schools. Dojo 1, New Hartford, New York, Tai Chi Martial Arts in Liverpool, New York, and then soon to be here in Rome is, well, Rome Jiu-Jitsu, we'll call it. So, yeah, guys, stay safe. Enjoy your quarantine time. Make the most out of it you can. Spend the time with the families and learn something new. All right? No time like the present, right?
That's it.
Thank
Awesome. Norm, I sincerely appreciate it, and we'll be in touch soon.
All right. Thanks, Tim. Thank everybody. I appreciate it. Take care.
Bye-bye.